For years, the argument wasn't who has the best ideas. It became how do we mathematically preserve outcomes? And the second the court started torching that formula, now everybody's talking like democracy itself tipped down the stairs. Don't believe me? Watch this.
I was born black. I'll be black all my life. I don't want to hear anybody say that the Republican Party has not gone out of its way to keep people who look like me away from the ballot box, because it's painfully untrue. It is something that has been charged in the courts time after time, decade after decade, particularly across the South, where the largest concentration of black people live. So we've seen those in Georgia. We've seen it in Texas. We've seen it. Well, those states are not led by Democrats, first and foremost. I let you talk. Would you please let me finish? Thank you very much. Beyond that, we have to be very serious about the concentration and the erosion of civil rights across this country. And yes, that also proceeds with voting rights. The erosion of the Voting Rights Act has been done holistically by the Republican Party. What we've seen from Donald Trump is someone who wants to and continues to try to expand his power by the most illegal means. So yes, those orders were challenged. Those orders were challenged in Venezuela because, quite frankly, there was no impetus to go there to begin with. What we do know is that more than likely, this was illegal. First and foremost, that's why he's trying to hide the videos.
Okay, so a couple things. Number one, has anyone ever personally tried to stop you from voting? Answer, no. Number two,
I vote in Illinois. I don't vote in the South.
Number three in this country, I hate to remind you of our history, but it was the Democratic Party that tried to suppress black votes in this country, not the Republican Party.
And I would love to remind you that when the Jim Crow laws were eroded, they were eroded by the Democratic Party, not by Republicans who tried to hoist them up and tried to continually re-enter Jim Crow in the modern era.
I think you need to reread your civil rights history. The Democratic Party doesn't have a clean record on this. But the bottom line is Democrats are going to continue to be ruthless. They're going to continue to try to gerrymander. They're going to continue to try to say the president's delivering illegal orders to mess up our military. Who knows what they'll do in Washington from here on out. But the bottom line is Republicans tonight didn't do this redistricting. Democrats are going to keep doing it. And if you're looking for who the most ruthless partisan players are, the Democratic Party.
Scott Jennings be talking to people like a substitute teacher that already knows who stole the Chromebook. But you want to notice what happened here, though, right? The conversation instantly shifted from, are these maps fair, to let's emotionally rewind America back to 1962. That's become the move anytime somebody questions modern political strategy. You ask about policy, and they attempt to hand you a history documentary. And listen, history matters, but some politicians use history like a smoke machine at a rap concert. Thick enough to hide what's happening right now. Because if your argument is strong enough in present-day America, you shouldn't need constant emergency flashback sequence to defend it, right? And once that emotional shield start cracking, even a little bit, then the people begin to start noticing contradictions they normally would have ignored. Watch this.
AOC, what are you going to do? She just said, well, Tennessee's trying to eliminate the only black congressional House member in the state of Tennessee. She's referring to the majority black district in Memphis. And the House member is named Steve Cohen. He ain't black. It used to be held by Harold Ford. He ran for senator before he became a host on Fox News. He lost, and the guy who succeeded him is Steve Cohen. And Steve Cohen got elected, as I said, in a district that's majority black. And when he tried to join the Congressional Black Caucus, they said, I'm sorry, it is an unwritten rule, no whites, blacks only. So, who's the bigot? Did anybody complain when Steve Cohen tried to apply for the CBC and got denied? Is this thing on?
Larry Elder, my guy. You see, this is the type of stuff that confuses regular people because now the public starts wondering, wait, are we protecting representation or are we protecting branding? That's why these conversations are getting dangerous politically. Not because people are becoming hateful. It's because people are becoming skeptical. Big difference. And the left keeps treating skepticism like rebellion now. If a citizen asks a follow-up question, suddenly they're public enemy number one. But Larry's clip is actually small compared to where this thing actually goes, right? Because now we move from awkward contradictions into full panic over congressional power.
Georgia and South Carolina are the latest states to enter the redistricting fight. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster will likely call a special legislative session next week to redraw the maps there. Democrats are struggling to respond. They believe this is an effort to cancel black representation. Here's Chief Congressional Correspondent Chad Pergram.
Redistricting and race.
They've also been trying to eliminate, teaching America's history, right? Whitewashing America's history.
Democrats accuse Republicans of engineering a Southern strategy, stamping out black lawmakers.
It's about race. We've seen this before.
We're looking at losing possibly 19 members of the Congressional Black Caucus.
Republicans say turnabout is fair play, since no Republicans represent any district in New England.
I think that's a problem, and I think it's out of whack, it's out of balance.
South Carolina initially balked at drawing new maps, but the Palmetto State reversed course after President Trump demanded that Republicans, quote, get it done and be bold and courageous.
People in South Carolina are very supportive of President Donald Trump. They understand perfectly that we're in a conflict, a nationwide conflict.
New South Carolina maps could mean former House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn can't win. Still, Democrats believe they can seize the House despite a shrinking map.
There are 45 districts in play that we've identified as opportunities to flip in this upcoming midterm election.
Democrats are banking on Republicans overplaying their redistricting hand.
The American public gets to make this decision. That's the great thing about American democracy, and we're working.
That doesn't sound like much of a concrete plan, though, Mr. Morelli.
I thought I was going to share my concrete plan.
Well, but that. The Supreme Court nullified districts based on race. That's why Georgia is drawing new maps, but those districts won't apply until 2028. Brett?
Chad Pergram live on Capitol Hill.
Well,
Chad, thanks.
That's the real fear right there. Seats, power, influence. Notice how fast the language turns, apocalyptic anytime district maps change in a way Democrats just don't like. But when other groups complain about political imbalance, suddenly we're told, adapt, campaign harder. You need to own your vote. Can't even talk. Earn your voters. Different energy. And what's interesting is a lot of Americans are starting to realize some districts were never designed to create competition. They were designed to create permanence. That's why every conversation instantly becomes radicalized before anybody can even discuss the actual map itself. And once Obama stepped in, you knew it wasn't just local politics anymore, right? Now it's a national machine that's entering the chat.
That map is an unconstitutional gerrymander, and its use would violate the plaintiff's constitutional rights. Now, this opinion is almost 100 pages long, so we're going through to see if it says something more broadly about the Voting Rights Act. That had been the fear on the left, that somehow this decision, if it was favorable for those challenging these maps, that it would somehow do a big chunk out of the Voting Rights Act. Haven't gotten to language that suggests that yet. It sounds like this decision is primarily about what happened in Louisiana. So we'll keep digging through this. But for right now, it's a win for those who were challenging these two minority-majority. That map is an unconstitutional.
So today's Supreme Court decision effectively guts a key pillar of voting rights, of the Voting Rights Act, freeing state legislators to gerrymander legislative districts to systematically dilute and weaken the voting power of racial minorities. I need to make this bigger so I can see this. What was I at? Racial minorities. So long as they do it under the guise of partisanship rather than explicit racial bias. And it serves as just one example of how a majority of the current court seems intent on abandoning its vital role and ensuring equal participation in our democracy and protect. Oh, look, Obama's always been smooth with the language. I ain't finna sit here and let my dyslexic ways into this video. But, he can make a warning sound inspirational, right? But listen closely to what's happening underneath all that wording, right? I didn't finish. I'll let y'all finish if y'all can zoom in. The argument basically becomes if these race-centered protections weaken, political representation changes. Okay. But that accidentally raises another question that people are scared to ask, right? If a political party needs race-engineered structures permanently in place to maintain influence, what does that say about the strength of the message itself? I really want to know that. That's the conversation nobody wants to simplify too much, because once regular people understand it plainly, that whole mystique disappears. And then my guy Vince pops through like he always do. You know, and he talks like your uncle that already accepted Thanksgiving dinner is getting uncomfortable, all right? Before you even park the car.
Now, if you had a majority black district, or a group of black folks in Massachusetts that voted Republican, do you think the Massachusetts government would draw that district and allow those black Republicans to have their own district? Of course not. They chop it up because it's in the best interest of Massachusetts to make sure that all their districts are Democrat. They don't give a damn what your color is. It was an all-Hispanic district that would vote Republican. They wouldn't draw it. It was an all-Jewish district that voted Republican. They wouldn't draw it. If it's an all-white district that votes Republican, they're not going to draw it in Massachusetts or in Vermont. They're not going to do it. They do this a lot in New York and in Illinois and in California. There are a lot of majority white districts that are Democrat. Why? Not because they're white. Because they're Democrat. They will not draw a Republican district. As a matter of fact, they just drew a lot of white Republicans out of their districts in California this past week. And that, you know what? And white folks have said nothing about it. The Democrats said, the people in the presidency said nothing about it. They drew them out in California. They was trying to draw them out in Virginia, and they got beat, and they're mad about that. Oh, that's just a crying shame. But when you draw out these majority Democrat districts in black areas, just because they're black, they get mad about it. People, this has got nothing to do with the color of your skin. It has to do with one thing. These people vote Democrat. If you find some white people that vote Democrat, they would draw them out also. So these districts are Democrat, which means they're also Marxist. And the state of Tennessee says we don't have any interest in giving these people any power, because all they vote to do, they vote to rob us and give them free stuff. What else do they vote to do? They vote to take the guns away. They vote to take God out of the public square. They vote to have your children transition. Why would you want to give these people any power? I don't give a daggum. I don't care if they're green because they're black. If that district, if Memphis was a majority Republican area and most of the black people in Memphis voted Republican, it would have stayed drawn the way it was. But it's not. They are Marxist, they are Democrats, and they're crazy. They voted for a dead woman, and then they voted for Justin Pearson. So Justin is mad because he was killing himself. He's going to run for Congress, right? So Justin's raising hell and rioting and raising all kinds of hell to get all out loud attention, but it ain't going to help Justin.
Nope. See, Vince attacked this from a completely different angle, right? He's basically saying this ain't even about race anymore. It's about predictable voting behavior. That changes the entire emotional framing, because now the conversation moves away from skin color into a political dependency. And that's why these clips are hitting harder online, than they would have 5 years ago. People are exhausted, not just financially, mentally exhausted from every disagreement immediately becoming a morality play. At some point, Americans start wanting expectations that sound human, actually, right? Instead of activist software updates. But then my girl, April Chapman, she took the conversation. Oh, let me make sure. Okay, yep, I'm on the right tab. She took the conversation somewhere most people just probably wasn't expecting.
A lot of twists and turns, but much of it likely to impact those critical November midterms with control of Congress on the. This was a 6-3 Supreme Court decision that has now cleared a path for Alabama to eliminate one of just two majority black congressional districts in that state. Both are represented by Democrats, and it allows Republicans to be in the position of likely picking up one more safe Republican seat ahead of November. It's just the latest in a nationwide firestorm of redistricting that's gripped both Republican and Democratic states. And it comes just about 2 weeks after that major Supreme Court decision that gutted a section of the Voting Rights Act's protections that deal with redistricting by race. The Congressional Black Caucus now says that in the wake of that decision, roughly 19 or so of its members, just about a third of the caucus representing Republican-controlled states like Georgia, Louisiana, South Carolina, and more, could now be at risk of losing their seats this year and again in 2028. Meantime, Virginia, which had a referendum to redraw its congressional maps that would favor Democrats, is now asking the U.S. Supreme Court to step in to overrule its state Supreme Court, which threw out those maps last week.
This is so similar to what happened during the Civil War era. Let's just take a moment to go back in time and think deeply about this analogy that I'm about to give y'all. First of all, think about it like this. During slavery, the average plantation slave, y'all, they were not organizing military campaigns against the Confederacy. In fact, you had a whole lot of slaves fighting on the side of the Confederacy, not because the Confederacy offered them their freedom in exchange for their military service. They were like, no, master needs your help. And because of the Stockholm Syndrome and the love that so many of them slaves had for their master, they fought on the side of the Confederacy. But what we don't understand and what we don't seem to want to remember is that it was Union soldiers. It was the Union soldiers that were actively fighting to defeat the Confederacy, and you had black freedmen and slaves who fought on the side of the Union Army. He was like, listen, if you fight, you can gain your independence, but you got to fight for it. It was Union soldiers. It was white abolitionists, the 54th Massachusetts and other black regiments that actively fought to liberate the black slaves down here in the South. And yes, black Union soldiers.
Now, this right here, this is why the internet's been exploding over these clips, because she's framing the entire emotional structure. Most commentators argue about fairness. She's arguing over psychological ownership. That's a much deeper conversation. And whether people agree with her or not, you can tell she's speaking from a place bigger than social media talking points. That's why this feels different. Most political clips today sound factory produced, right? This one sounds like somebody's genuinely been sitting with these thoughts. And the second half is where she really lands the plane. You know, at the center of this debate is one uncomfortable reality. America is entering into an era where old political language isn't automatically working anymore. People still care about race issues, but they also care about manipulation. And once citizens starts feeling emotionally managed instead of represented, the reaction changes fast. And of course, on the other side of this is this. But, you know, this is what you're watching happen. Not everybody becoming right-wing, not everybody becoming left-wing. People just becoming harder to hypnotize by recycled emotional scripts. And that shift right there, man, that might be something that matters more than any district map in this country. So if you made it this far in this video, I want you to comment the word blueprint. Should have said manipulation, because what is this? Y'all be safe. Go check out somebody today. You can quite literally be saving their life. Peace. Oh, wait, I didn't even stop it. I'm glad I didn't say nothing stupid after.